The morning traffic surrounding Capitol Summit Convention Center stretched for blocks. Black SUVs lined the entrance. Police officers directed vehicles through multiple security checkpoints. Television crews waited behind barricades. Inside the building, some of the country's most influential business leaders had gathered for the National Innovation Forum, where senior government officials and industry executives would discuss infrastructure, technology, and economic development. Among the arriving guests was Victoria Lawson, founder and CEO of Lawson Aerospace Systems. At only 41, she had become one of the youngest CEOs ever invited to address the annual summit. Known for her sharp intelligence and relentless work ethic, Victoria expected efficiency from everyone around her. She disliked delays. She disliked excuses even more. Her longtime chauffeur had called in sick that morning. The transportation company quickly assigned a replacement driver. His name was Daniel Carter. When Daniel stepped out of the sedan, he looked nothing like the professional chauffeurs waiting outside. His black suit was clean, but slightly worn. His shoes had clearly seen years of use. A small photograph of his 9-year-old daughter, Lily, rested inside the clear badge holder clipped to his jacket. Since losing his wife 5 years earlier, Daniel had accepted contract driving jobs because the flexible schedule allowed him to spend more time raising Lily. Very few people knew anything about his past. To everyone who met him, he appeared to be an ordinary driver trying to make an honest living. "Good morning, Ms. Lawson," Daniel said politely as he opened the rear door. Victoria barely looked up from the documents in her hand. "Let's not waste time. We're already running late." Daniel simply nodded. "Yes, ma'am." The drive toward the convention center was smooth despite heavy traffic. Daniel remained calm, anticipating lane changes well ahead of time, and choosing quieter streets that avoided major congestion. Victoria noticed, but said nothing. Halfway there, her assistant called in a panic. "The security entrance has changed. The main gate is completely closed." Victoria sighed. "Perfect," Daniel quietly asked. "May I suggest another route?" She looked up for the first time. "You know the security layout?" "I know the city well." After a brief hesitation, she nodded. Daniel followed a little-used service road that led to the eastern entrance, arriving several minutes ahead of schedule. The assistant waiting outside looked surprised. "How did you get here so quickly?" Daniel smiled. "Years of driving." Victoria stepped out of the vehicle. "Good. Wait here until the event ends." Daniel nodded. "I'll be nearby." As she entered the convention center, Victoria overheard two executives discussing the replacement driver. "Your regular chauffeur? Sick, so they sent someone else." Victoria shrugged. "He's just an ordinary driver. He did his job." Daniel happened to hear the remark while closing the car door. His expression never changed. He simply returned to waiting beside the vehicle. Around noon, unexpected activity spread through the convention center. Security officers began speaking urgently into their radios. Additional government vehicles arrived. Secret Service agents quietly repositioned themselves near the entrance. Word quickly spread through the building. The president had decided to make an unannounced appearance at the summit. Guests hurried toward the main hall. Victoria joined the welcoming line alongside other CEOs and senior officials. Outside, Daniel remained beside the sedan, calmly observing the increased security presence. One of the senior Secret Service agents glanced toward him. For a brief moment, the agent stopped walking. His expression changed from routine professionalism to complete surprise. He spoke quietly into his radio. Within seconds, two more agents looked toward Daniel. They weren't alarmed. They seemed stunned. Daniel offered a polite nod, as though recognizing old colleagues. The agents immediately returned the gesture with unmistakable respect. Inside the convention center, the president entered to enthusiastic applause. After greeting several officials, he suddenly paused. His eyes moved beyond the crowd toward the entrance doors. A warm smile spread across his face. Ignoring the prepared reception line, he began walking directly toward the exit. Confused executives stepped aside. Victoria watched in disbelief as the president continued toward the man she had dismissed as an ordinary driver. The president extended his hand, smiled broadly, and said words that left the entire convention center in stunned silence. "Welcome back, Ghost One." The entire reception hall fell silent. Executives looked at one another in confusion. Reporters lowered their cameras for a moment, unsure they had heard correctly. Victoria stared at Daniel. "Ghost One." The president stepped forward with a warm smile and firmly shook Daniel's hand. It's been far too long. Daniel smiled respectfully. It's good to see you again, sir. One of the government officials quietly explained to the stunned guests. Ghost 1 wasn't a rank. It was a classified radio call sign used years ago for one of our most trusted government security pilots. Whispers spread throughout the room. A pilot? I thought he was a chauffeur. The president nodded toward Daniel. Before choosing to leave public service, he flew critical government transport missions under extraordinary circumstances. He never sought recognition. And because much of his work remained classified, very few people ever knew his name. Daniel looked slightly uncomfortable with the attention. Mr. President, I was part of a remarkable team. I was never the whole story. The president smiled. That's exactly why everyone respected you. Victoria slowly walked over. I owe you an apology. Daniel looked at her kindly. For what? I called you an ordinary driver. Daniel smiled. I am an ordinary driver. It's an honest job. And right now, it's the one that lets me be home every evening for my daughter. The president laughed softly. That answer sounds exactly like the Daniel I remember. During lunch, the president invited Daniel to join a small private gathering with several young military cadets and engineering students attending the summit. One student asked, "Why did you leave such an important career?" Daniel reached into his wallet and removed a small photograph of Lily. My wife passed away. My daughter needed a father more than the country needed one more pilot. The room grew quiet. I've never regretted that decision. Another student asked, "Do you ever miss flying?" Daniel smiled. Every day. But I don't miss the moments I gained with my daughter. The president nodded thoughtfully. Service takes many forms. Sometimes protecting one child is just as important as protecting a nation. Victoria listened carefully. She realized that while she had measured success by titles, influence, and accomplishments, Daniel measured it by promises kept to his family. After the summit ended, Victoria approached Daniel outside. I've spent years judging people by resumes and appearances. You reminded me that character doesn't need an introduction. Daniel replied, We all make assumptions. The important part is whether we're willing to correct them. Several weeks later, Victoria introduced a new leadership program throughout her company. Every executive would spend time working alongside employees in different roles. Drivers, receptionists, maintenance teams, customer support representatives, warehouse staff. At the first meeting she explained why. The people who seem ordinary often carry extraordinary stories. If we don't take time to know them, we'll never truly understand the people who make this company succeed. Months later, she invited Daniel to speak with new managers. He didn't tell stories about classified missions or government service. Instead, he spoke about respect. No job determines a person's worth. The title on a badge tells you what someone does. It never tells you who they are. The room erupted in applause. That evening, Daniel arrived home just in time for dinner. Lily ran to the door. Dad, you made it. I promised I would. She smiled. You always do. As they sat together sharing homemade spaghetti, Daniel quietly looked around the small kitchen. There were no cameras, no applause, no important guests, just laughter. To him, it was the greatest reward of all. People remembered the story because a CEO dismissed a single dad as an ordinary driver, until the president greeted him with the words, "Welcome back, Ghost One." But those who knew the full story understood that the real lesson wasn't about secret accomplishments or hidden identities. It was that genuine greatness is often carried with humility, and the people who have achieved the most are frequently the ones least interested in talking about it. Respect should never depend on appearances, because every person has a story that deserves to be seen before it is judged.